I don't know. Wicked.
Beatbox. Go on.
No.
Go on, do it.
No. Fuck that.
This isn't going into it, so it doesn't matter.
It might do. I might use it as the introduction.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, listening to the Lads Lounge. This week, we are joined by a very special friend, guest, called Oliver Jerram, also known as OJ. He is one of the co-hosts of the Beertastic podcast. We're delighted to have him on this week, and we can't wait to delve into some interesting topics with him. As always, I'm joined by JJ. This week, it's just us, the dynamic duo,
Yes.
on the pod.
To turn up.
It's not that they can be bothered. They're busy.
Yeah, that's fine.
They're busy. But yeah. Just have a little quick catch up then, shall we? How are we doing, boys?
Good.
Very well. Very well.
Yeah? Had a busy week, have
Busy
we?
week.
Yeah?
Busy week.
Roughly busy, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah. Trying to get filming done. We all filmed on Monday.
We did.
I think it went quite well. But we had some sound issues.
Oh, yeah, we did have some minor sound issues, but
Yeah.
it's all fine now.
It's all fine. It's all fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else happened in the week that's been fun or interesting?
Not in particular.
It's just been filming, really.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that time of year.
It's that time of year.
Yeah.
No fun. Just knuckle down and get work done.
It's the one time a week we look forward to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where we have fun.
But yeah. Now, so, OJ, would you care to introduce yourself to our beloved and dear loyal viewers?
So, I'm OJ. Some of you might already know me from the highly acclaimed Beertastic podcast. But yes, I am the OJ.
Yeah, it's the OJ.
Yeah. Do you want to tell everyone what the Beertastic podcast is a little bit about?
So the Beertastic podcast, I'd say in terms of like it's kind of similar to this in terms of lads having a nice catch up and stuff like that. But also it's a exploration of different types of beers we like to explore, and obviously different weekly topics that occur during the weeks, and some fun and games. But yeah, if you haven't already, check it out. But
Check it out, guys.
Yeah.
Please.
How many episodes are you up to at the minute?
we're currently up to 6, but we've got a big master plan for another 4 episodes, which we should be filming over the next 2 weeks or so.
You want to give us a little insight? Or?
Some drunk delights is what I'll say.
Ooh, that should be interesting.
We need a drunk podcast. We still need a drunk edition.
But yeah, it's we've gotten close to drunkenness, but not the full potential yet. So it'll be a very good podcast, I think, the episode.
Wonderful. Oh, that's wonderful. So, as we often talk about on this podcast, we do often talk about football.
Oh dear.
So I'm starting us off the bat with you, OJ.
Why are you talking about me?
Tell the audience who you support.
I support Chelsea.
Ah,
And do you want to tell what happened? Was it a couple of days ago?
Yep.
Yeah, a couple of days ago.
What happened a couple of days ago?
You tell me, man. You tell me.
We may have partaken in a football match against Arsenal. We may have conceded a few goals.
A few.
But it's nothing too bad,
I believe your score was 5-0.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. I don't know. Yeah.
Kai Havertz got a fair few, didn't he? Ex-Chelsea player.
Oh God.
Yeah, but still hasn't got as many goals as Cole Palmer this season. So
This is true. This is true. Who's closest to winning a title, though?
I mean, Arsenal, but
There you go. It's unfortunate. I can't say anything else, as my team is just dog shit, really. But yeah, we'll move on from that because you seem upset. Yeah. So OJ, how have you found being at your university? We're in our 3rd year. Time's are ticking. What would you say your overall experience has been?
I think it's been popping experience. It's been good. Obviously learned a lot and made some memories and stuff. But it's all smooth rolling.
Yeah. Would you say you've had any struggles at any point?
Not major struggles now.
No?
Not majorly struggles.
How have you found coping with some of the pressures?
I felt it's not been too bad. I'd say obviously sometimes it can get a little bit much at times, obviously, but I expect everyone has that sort of thing with university. But it's all about preparing yourself for the real world, and
Nice.
obviously in a few weeks' time we'll be leaving the nest and spreading our wings into the open world.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's great. That's an OJ. That's an
So
OJ classic.
Quote of the day from OJ.
Oh, we got like quote of the day.
Quote of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, that's nice. That's very impressive. So, standout memory so far.
Standout memory. Oh, I think I don't know if this has been mentioned yet on the podcast, but I imagine it has. But me and Danny are
No,
Has it not been mentioned?
I want to hear this.
it's already been mentioned.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
What day? What is it?
it's when I put him in hospital.
No.
Oh, a different one. Okay.
I'm talking about the football team.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
I'm not going to mention that on live on there, don't worry.
Thank you.
But yeah, obviously, me and for Daniel have been a part of a 6-side football team. Do you want to mention the name, Danny? Or
No, that's you, man.
so the team is called Inti and Ann. Looking into the camera while saying that. But yeah, it's made a few memories. Obviously, had a few good times. Obviously, a few good seasons, and obviously made some memories along the way. So I'd say that's probably the highlight of university. I'd say in terms of that experience.
Top goal scorer, aren't you?
Yeah, top goal scorer. Not too bad.
Yeah, he's very well. He's scored a lot of penalties. He's almost rivaling Cole Palmer.
He's scored a lot of penalties. I've scored 4 penalties.
Yeah. So OJ, some of the struggles you had at university.
Trying to think of one off the top of my head. I mean, I've had like struggles where like we've had to work as like for example last year when it was we had what was it, studio. As a producer, I found that all a bit too much at times, really, in terms of the pressure and stuff, and obviously trying to do so many different things at once. I felt was quite a big pressure. Obviously, some people are more used to handling with those pressures and obviously can do a good job of it, but I felt it was obviously a bit more challenging and a bit more, what's the word? I felt like you didn't get as much reward as you would do. Like, it's just, you put in more work in for the same reward, it felt like. That's my only problem with doing that.
How did you kind of cope with those pressures?
Obviously I had a like team to work with in terms of like producers and directors and stuff like that, but obviously I've felt it was a bit of a struggle to cope with it obviously individually on a basis rather than like across a team. It was obviously easier to manage, but obviously when you were doing stuff you had to do yourself, obviously that was a bit more of a struggle.
Because I remember there was a time where you had to take a slight step back from it.
Yeah, so I had to take a step back from it and stuff because I really couldn't like do it anymore and stuff. Personally, for me,
Was it just too overwhelming?
I think it was just too overwhelming. I think it got to a point where like if I just kept on going, I'd be like running myself into the ground. And obviously taking steps aside, not just for me, but for like also in the group. You know what I mean?
It was
obviously
It was a lot. It was a big production. How many people were involved in the group? Probably like.
I'd like it at least 20 odd.
Yeah, I'd say about 20 people.
20, 25-ish. On that number.
It was like a 30-minute show, live show.
Plus also had to do the other one as well at the same time.
Yeah.
You obviously got to think you had to do 2 at the same time. That was why. Is why I probably didn't help. If it was just one, might have been
easier to manage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very overwhelming last year.
Oh, 100%. It was that jump from I think first year to second year was huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
It kind of almost feels like second year and third year kind of swap places in essence. Like
Yeah.
second year feels more like what a final year probably would do, but your third year feels a bit more calmer and maybe a bit more what a second year should be.
But maybe that's because of how harsh second year was.
Yeah,
So
maybe
it's just
you've
kind of
already learned
prepped us.
like
Yeah.
that.
It's just sort of
But again, I
prepped us.
feel like we're taught stuff that like for example, when I was doing sound last year, we weren't taught anything on like different things that you could use to make it easier to sync up audio and stuff like that. Also, obviously now you just press a button, it does it for you. Whereas before you were taught how to do it like manually and stuff. So I think now they sort of kind of taught you how to do things the harder way first, then taught them how to do it easier. But I guess it got it out of the way and done with, really, didn't it? It makes it a bit easier.
So, going into you personally a little bit, what makes OJ tick? Let's hear a bit about your backstory. Come on.
What do you mean by that? Sorry, makes you tick.
So, some of your upbringing. Let's hear about that because, you know, it's a good insight into what makes you you.
So I was brought up in the countryside, in God's country. So I've been a local to the area for quite a while. So you have travelled from afar to come to university.
Far away land.
Afar. And obviously
I've
I've been
an hour and a half on train.
well, yeah, but yeah, it's about the same time as my bus takes to get here. To be fair.
Fucking hell.
But yeah, obviously I've been a local to the area for a while. So obviously in terms of, I wouldn't say it's been probably made my uni experience a lot easier because obviously I had the challenge of moving to a completely different place and obviously adapt to a different living style and obviously adapt to a different area as much and obviously adapt to trying to find new jobs and stuff like that. So I'd say obviously I've probably had the easier end of the stick compared to obviously you guys because obviously got a lot more to deal with than obviously I would being living in the area anyway. So I feel like in that sense I've probably helped myself a lot by doing that. Because if, for example, it was the other way around and I came to, I don't know, London or something like that for uni, I had to live in London, I'd probably struggle a bit because obviously it's a bit more of I'd find that a bit more of a task than obviously the other way around.
How comes you'd find it a little bit more of a task?
I feel like
is it you're not used to the
big
bustling and
change.
Oh, okay, so it's just the change aspect, or is it
Yeah.
the fact that it would be more busier?
I don't think that in itself, because I went to London a couple of weeks back, and I kind of enjoyed it. It was a bit more busier whilst I was there for a couple of days. But obviously, I think the big sort of change in terms of how you live essentially would be more of the aspect rather than the place itself. I don't think it'd be. It's like you'd say London or even I don't know Leeds or something like that. It doesn't matter on the place specifically. I'd still think it'd be a big.
How do you think it would change you though?
I don't know. I think personally, it would just be a task to overhaul as well as obviously doing uni stuff. So obviously, I think with now it's sort of there's no barriers between an additional barrier between me personally and then doing uni stuff. Also, obviously, if that was there'd be that sort of barrier now I'd have to go through and then go to that. If you get what I mean.
What about after uni?
After uni,
coming to the end of it, does the idea of moving somewhere that's not out of the area, does the idea of that?
Obviously, I think that would be different because obviously you would then be obviously with uni, it's not I wouldn't say it's a barrier anymore because obviously when you're going off to, if you're doing a job or something, I wouldn't consider that as much as a barrier than obviously university, for example.
Yeah.
So I feel I'll be a bit different in that sense. And obviously now, obviously I'd say I've matured quite a fair bit over the course of uni, whilst obviously if it was when I turned 18, for example, I did that, it would be obviously a different story, I'd say.
Of course, yeah.
But like me and JJ going away when we were 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, for example. Obviously, if I was in that position, I think I would struggle with that. Whilst obviously now I'm going to be 21 doing that. I feel like it might be a bit of
Because you've never really been away from family.
Not mentally, no. I've obviously been away on holiday away from family or been out away from family, but not lived away from home, bar say.
You think that would be a challenge for you?
I think it might be a slight challenge, yeah, because obviously when you're used to something for so long, it becomes a challenge to then suddenly change something for a long period of time also, if you get what I mean.
But you've also got to think about the support network you've got as well.
Well, yeah.
You know?
Obviously you've got to look at other aspects as well, obviously work and stuff like that. If obviously you move to a completely different place, you have to find a new place of work and stuff like that. And obviously you'd have to, you'd be with people that maybe not necessarily you know at all, really. You might, I don't know, if I went to, I'm trying to think of an area. If I suddenly decided I want to move to Southend, I have no idea who anyone is there, and then no idea what the place is like. Whilst obviously, if I'm still at home, I know people that are at home, and obviously I know the area, and I've obviously have essentially something built there, essentially.
That comes down to you being able to branch out socially and try and make as something for yourself in that area.
Yeah.
Is that something you think you might struggle with?
At this period of time, yes, but obviously, as time goes by, I feel like maybe you might be able to do that a bit more as time goes on. Because obviously...
Why do you think you would be struggling to do that?
I don't know. I feel like personally I've always sort of struggled with big change. So like, if something changes, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, so I've always had to, but I guess over time, I'd learn to obviously adapt, because obviously we'll be finishing uni soon. So I'd have to do, in a sense, a sort of branching out myself in a sense anyways. So obviously, over time, after I've done that for a while, I'll probably be more comfortable in moving away to other places, I think.
Fair enough. Growing up, Somerset.
Yeah.
Vastly different from what me and JJ have had to deal with. What's that been like? Because Somerset's so vast and can be quite sparse in things to do if you're not in the right areas.
Yeah. So obviously for me, I've been lucky in terms of I've lived next to near Bath, which is obviously quite a big city and obviously a lot to do. But obviously if you lived in an area, I don't know, let's say near Wales, for example, it's not really a ton to do in Wales itself. And then obviously you've got not really a ton of places outside surrounding Wales and stuff like that. So obviously you've got that issue. But I feel like I've been lucky in terms of being near the Bath area and as such, because obviously there's a lot of opportunities and it's not inherently too massively far away from Bristol either. It's only, 2-3 buses to Bristol from where I live.
Yeah.
So it's not too much of a issue, obviously, in terms of you're near the big locations, essentially, in the area. But obviously for you guys, obviously you practically have, I don't know whereabouts near it you live, but obviously you both live near London, so obviously you've got essentially the biggest door in the country at your doorstep, essentially, to open to. So I guess obviously that'd be kind of obviously probably if I was to move somewhere, London probably would be obviously around it would be obviously the biggest option, because obviously there's so much vast opportunities created there when compared to, let's say, Bath. But yeah, I'd say Upbringing Rise in Somerset's been good.
Family relationships. How's that? Because obviously I know you've got your older brother Scott, mum and dad still together and everything.
Yeah.
So how's that built you?
I feel like it's built me well, I think. Obviously we've all been through our struggles and whatnot and high times, but I feel like always we've been quite a strong unit, I'd say. We've never really pulled up, at points, pulled apart majorly from one another. We always sort of stick in that sort of circle. And then sort of obviously we have branched out to some degree in obviously what we do and stuff, but obviously we've always stayed in that sort of central circle and stuff like that, I'd say.
Obviously Scotty's been at this uni.
Yeah.
Is that a particular reason why you've ended up here, or is it because, again, wasn't ready to branch out, or?
I'd say, in terms of, I wasn't majorly ready to branch out still yet, but obviously, so in terms of the local area, I thought this was probably, in terms of what I wanted to do, it's probably the best area in terms of obviously the facilities and whatnot. And obviously, if obviously I was to go to uni in Bristol, you'd obviously be a bit more of a trek to get to. So obviously, I guess this was always the essentially the most obvious option to go to. But obviously, it's also, obviously, having Scott's insight, obviously, and how obviously this uni was obviously a big pointer as well, because obviously I didn't know anyone from any other uni at that point. So obviously having that did help, obviously. But I'd say the options that were available to me, this probably was the best option regardless anyways.
Yeah. Will you describe your relationship with Scott? Actually, quite close, or
I'd say we're quite
because
close.
he's the older brother, obviously.
Well, yeah, he's always been the older brother, like looking out and stuff. But I'd say we've always been quite close. Obviously, he lives with his girlfriend at time to time, but obviously, I still think we stay close. And obviously, he's obviously a part of the Yan'an team. But yeah, I always say sort of always still staying in touch and stuff when obviously he's not around and whatnot. But I'd say we're still quite close. Yeah, still likes to wind me up when Chelsea lose 5-0, for instance. But yeah.
Who does he support?
He doesn't support anyone. He
just winds you up.
Yeah, he just winds me up when Chelsea lose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was like, it's interesting to talk about how relationship dynamics within the family and like as in like you've got an older brother, you know, you've got an older. I'm the oldest brother.
Yeah.
So being like the younger one, how do you guys find it? Do you ever feel like you're pressured? Do you ever feel like, you know, older siblings are a bit too much?
No, it's all right for me because, at least for my brother, we're 10 years apart. So there's quite a big age gap. So I've always kind of saw him as like, kind of like an idol, really. I've always looked up to him. It's never been like, I feel like when the age gap is like quite like a year different or something, there's more competitive. I don't know what the age gap between you and your
two years.
So I don't know if you found like there was ever competition between you two.
Obviously, when you're like young, obviously, you know, sort of siblings and whatnot, you always have that. But I wouldn't say like, obviously, as we've matured and gotten older, that's something that's stuck around at all.
Yeah, because my brother's always been like the mature one because he's just been so much older.
Yeah.
So I've never really, we have like big fights or anything like that. I've got a younger sister who is like a year and a half apart, which we did have fights a lot. Like, that was like the proper sibling relationship. But
is that down to it with your brother though? Like both of you, like that element of care. You know, he's older than you. You know, Scott's older than you. Do you feel like they had that responsibility to be able to look after you?
Probably. There were times where obviously my parents would be out doing whatever and he'd be the one who had to look after us.
Yeah.
Probably more vast in your case.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
he's like almost a decade older.
Well, yeah. I'd say probably the same as well. Obviously, you know, when our parents were home, we obviously did stuff they may have not approved of, but, you know, I won't touch on that on here just in case they're watching. But, you know, obviously, you know, we've always sort of stayed close, and obviously, he's always been the older role model type figure. How would you say it's for you, Danny? Because obviously, you're different to us. You're obviously
You are the oldest.
You are the oldest.
Do you care?
That's why I was asking about whether you feel like that care is there and things like that. It can be stressful.
Do you feel like very responsible for your six? You have two siblings, don't you? Three.
What's the age?
Me and Ryan, which is 2 years. Then I have two half brothers.
Okay.
That's 16 years.
Oh wow.
So obviously for you, obviously you have. What would you say you feel? Obviously you have more siblings than us as well. So obviously, do you feel that sense of responsibility as such towards all of them?
It's difficult because me and Ryan, we are full-blooded, and you know we've grown up together, and we've always been there for one another. The other two, it's a little bit difficult because I don't see them. I'm down here. My old man doesn't have. He has a relationship with the mother, but isn't together. So it's another strain on it as well.
So you're not really like. I assume, are you in contact with them much, or do you see them that much, or not really?
No, I'm down here, man.
Not fair.
You know, so it's kind of when we can get together, sort of thing, make the effort to, but can't really.
Yeah, that sucks.
You know, so but with me and Ryan, we'll
Like
talk.
that.
We talk all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and if he ever needs to be pulled up on something, or if he needs a hand, I will be there.
I say for his age, he's quite mature, isn't he, Ryan? I'd say.
No.
For his age. No? Or is it just from what I see, he always seems to like be, you know, up and about, doing his own things and
No, he is, to
making
be
his
fair. He
way
is.
in life. I feel like at 18 I wouldn't have been able to do what he does. So I'd say credit to him.
What does he do? Sorry.
He works in a hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's looking to become an apprentice Sparky.
Oh,
So he's doing well for himself. I am proud of him. But yeah, there was times where, here we spoke about it, and it comes up every now and then where I try to talk to him and try and ask him to be a little bit more switched on with things. Because like growing up, I was kind of having to be there a lot for him to sort things out, sort of thing.
right.
So, kind of going away, things kind of, I spoke to my mum about it and things like that, kind of became a little bit more difficult. Won't go into details too much, obviously, but it's about trying to cultivate him becoming that little bit more mature. You try shouting at him, you try talking. You often find that just sitting down and having a chat is the best way. But even then, there's still that little bit of an age gap between the two of us where he doesn't see it from my point of view yet. Whereas, like, a few years ago, he got to the point where I was at. Then he's like, oh, I see it now, sort of thing.
Right.
So it's kind of a little bit of a waiting game with that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think Scotty's had to have that with you at all?
I would say as much, no.
What?
I wouldn't say.
No?
In terms of... No, I think because obviously you've obviously had the thing where you've obviously moved away and he would have been, 16 when you joined uni? So obviously when Scott joined... Well, in fact, when Scott joined uni, it was obviously COVID. So obviously he would have been home a lot anyways. So I guess that kind of... So even if, like, that kind of sort of thing that you had obviously with Ryan, obviously, it's quite obviously different with me and Scott, because we obviously been, when we were at those ages, been still, like, relatively near each other, whilst obviously I'd imagine obviously it was a bit more of a challenge with obviously spread across the country with your instance.
Yeah, it is difficult. It is difficult, especially with having the two younger ones. You don't feel like you have as much impact, or you don't have a relationship really with them, and that hurts. But there's nothing I can do about it at the moment, sort of thing.
Until they get a bit older, you're saying, or just
until a combination of them being a little bit older, but also when I'm actually able to
go over there.
to try and be more. It's difficult,
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and you kind of gotta make peace with it in a sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. How would you say it is for you? Because you said you're the middle child, right?
Huh?
So obviously, going back to what Daddy said about, like, his brother saying, like, oh, I get what you meant, like, when they were at a certain age. Obviously, you would have that now for your younger sibling. So obviously, would you think that obviously helps you in terms of being responsible for your, was it your sister who's younger than you?
Yeah.
Would you say that's helped in terms of that? Because obviously might have had that from your older brother.
Well, we've all three of us have very different paths that we've taken, and like very different things have all happened to three of us. It's probably more noticeable with me and my brother because obviously it's such a big age gap. Like, times are different back then, whatever. I'm the only one in my family who's like gone to uni and like done this sort of experience thing. So I don't really have anyone who I could have related to with that.
Yeah, it's similar in my instance as well, considering that I was the first one.
Yeah.
But my mum's cousin, 10 years, me, him, he went off and did uni and things like that. So I kind of ended up getting that.
I had cousins that went to uni, but then I only really see them in like big family gathering things. I'm not really like very talkative with those guys, but yeah. And then with my sister, she doesn't go to uni either, so it's like I'm not, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a bit different as well because she's also a girl, and it's like I won't have sort of similar experiences
Yeah.
that she would have as she's growing up, you know. That being said, she is a very kind of, I don't know what the right word is for this. Can you still say tomboy? Is that a word? Can you say that anymore or not?
I don't know.
I don't know if you can say that.
We'll have to let that up before you get cancelled.
Yeah, I probably should.
I don't know.
Well, I'll bleep that regardless. But
Laddish?
yeah, but I think it's because she grew up in a house
With the boys.
with the boys. Yeah. So I guess she can kind of relate to things like that. But obviously, she also has girl problems that I can't really relate to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's understandable.
yeah,
I think, especially with the 2-year age gap, with the divide in gender, you're not always going to be able to.
yeah.
But it's just not necessarily about being able to relate. It's about maybe being to understand.
Of course, yeah.
You know. So Keenan was on last week, and if you don't mind us talk about it, obviously, he was speaking about how his ADHD and autism it can be a challenge for him, and I hope you don't mind us saying this anyway.
That's all right.
Yeah, but you've yourself have been very open with everyone about you and how you also struggle with similar things. You know, could you tell us a little bit about it, if that's all right?
So, I am a bit like Jose Mourinho. I am the special one. But obviously, I think it kind of, I'd say that's kind of a prime example of what kind of is. You kind of sort of, it's a bit more of a kind of a drifting off type thing. If you get what I mean, you sort of, it's harder to focus on a specific thing, and things can try to think intrusive thoughts, for example.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably something I think a lot of people associate with it, and that is true. You do get a lot of things, but you just think something, you just blurt out, just mid conversation, just out of nowhere. I think obviously it's you can repeat yourself a lot as well. I'd say as well, but I'd say in terms of growing up, I wouldn't say when it was younger, it was a bit of a problem because obviously.
How so, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I didn't actually know. Well, obviously, I can't remember obviously when I specifically knew about it, but obviously I wasn't technically diagnosed with it until I was about 5, I think. So obviously I would have had that time growing up where people might have just thought I was just being a bit dumb or something like that. But obviously then in obviously going through primary school, obviously it was a bit more tougher because obviously I wouldn't be able to do stuff as learn as much as the other kids because obviously I would struggle to do as much. And then going through secondary school, I feel like it was a bit more similar because when I started out in secondary, so I did year 7. When I started off in year 7, I started off in a special school. But I felt like going, and then after that I went to your traditional secondary school after a year. But I feel like going to that first and then going to secondary school might have been a step backwards in essence.
Why do you think that is? Is that because...
I felt because obviously when I joined then in year 8, obviously everyone, it's a bit essentially starting secondary school kind of would have been starting uni in a sense. Not a lot of people know each other. You're obviously going to a new place, isn't it? Well, not as much a new place as this, obviously, but you're still going to a new place in that sense. And obviously not everyone would know each other, and that, not everyone came from the same primary school, not everyone came from the same area. So obviously in year 7, everyone had done that already, made friends and stuff, and obviously already had that thing. So I joined the party a year late. So obviously you would have had, I was essentially already a year behind in that sense. And also with starting a special school as well, your education level is so far lower compared to, you're practically on the same width length of primary school still.
Right.
Whilst compared to obviously I would essentially had to play catch up from the time I started there right up until doing my GCSEs and stuff. Yeah. So for example when I was in year 11 essentially studying for my GCSEs, I was essentially trying to then play catch up from stuff I would have learnt years before. that would have made, obviously, it a lot easier in year 11 if I had already known. So I feel like that was probably, on that part, probably not the greatest of ideas. And I felt like at times as well, it kind of...
Was it your decision? Did you have any input, or was it?
Well, I did decide it at first, but then, like, after a while of being there, I did slowly start to regret that decision, I think. And then obviously we went into secondary school and stuff, like, properly, and then obviously went from there. But I felt it kind of, like, mentally as well, put me down a little bit as well, because obviously I was then around people and obviously were, I don't want to sound mean at all, but obviously had, like, it off worse than me. I feel like that at times might have maybe slightly rubbed off on me at times, and then obviously when going to secondary school, it made that step maybe bigger than what it would have been if I'd done year 6 to year 7, if you get what I mean.
So is it essentially you saying that if you'd been socialising with, like, people in the secondary school setting, you might have not been able to integrate a little bit easier rather than having to, like you said, calling it a step back?
Yeah. Obviously,
so you feel like that impacted you quite a bit?
I feel like that did impact me quite a bit. And obviously in terms of, like, people I knew at secondary school, obviously limited that sort of boundary as well, because obviously I didn't know everyone from the get-go. I knew everyone from, like, a quarter of the way in.
Right. And they all kind of knew each other already.
And they all kind of knew each other already and already knew each other for a year or so.
Do you find it difficult integrating into it?
I felt like at the beginning it was quite difficult. In year 8, I would say I was quite lonely. I didn't really have a ton of friends. But obviously going into year 9, I sort of started to integrate a bit more. A lot easier, I'd say. I think like that probably helped in terms as well, because obviously there was, from year 9, we did, I can't remember, I think we did about 5 lessons, like, less than we would done before. So like, obviously there was, you got to choose what you wanted to do, essentially, partly. So I guess that might have helped a little bit, because obviously you were with people that would be on the same interest like, have the same interests as you more than obviously before. So obviously I think that helped in part, but I feel like obviously and then going into, like, GCSEs, when obviously you go further into more, like, even narrowing the amount of subjects you do even more, obviously that probably helped a bit more. But I feel like if I'd started there from the get-go, yeah, it'd been a fair bit easier.
Easier ride. Yeah.
Well, obviously you didn't.
Yeah.
So, but did you find that the school helped you integrate in, or was it kind of drop you in the deep end, see how you float?
It kind of did feel like I was dropped in the deep end, essentially. I think that was the main issue. I did have a support unit there, because it was one that was part of the old special school that was sort of there. But
Helping with the crossover.
Yeah, but I still felt like it was kind of not like, I feel like it'd been more beneficial if I'd, I don't know, they'd have taken me out to, like, there, like, the transition, take me out to the school a bit more, so I could obviously get to know people a lot more that were there. Well, essentially, I went there not knowing a single person, and then had to start from the get-go there, which I felt was a bit of a problem.
That really scared me, I can't lie. That does sound very, very daunting.
Yeah.
Well, so how did that ever, like, how did that mentally affect you? Because obviously you're saying you felt lonely, and what did that do anything, like?
I don't think that did any in terms of major issues, no, because obviously I didn't really feel like at home in year 7 anyway, so I feel like it was something I was already experienced to anyways, but obviously would prefer it not to be there. But obviously as time went on, I felt more in my comfort zone with people, and obviously I had a good few friends, and obviously from time to time, obviously when they're back from uni and that, I meet up with them and whatnot now. So obviously now as such, obviously I've built that up, but I feel like with school it's hard, like in secondary school at least, it feels like harder to socialise out of it, if you get what I mean. So I feel that was a problem as well. If there was more, especially where I went, there didn't really feel like an attempt to try and help people socialise as much, I think. Whilst obviously you might have had a different experience, I don't know, but obviously if you look at university, for example, that's very much like centred around helping people get to know people and help to socialise in the area, I feel. Also, obviously, if that was something that was more looked upon in secondary schools, I think.
Because that's something I wanted to ask you. How did you find the jump going from like secondary school, college or sixth form, whatever it was you did, going into university, because it's such a big
Did you feel like prepped and ready, kind of social wise?
I feel like I kind of already. It was easier than doing it with secondary school, I felt. Because obviously, with here, I think in terms of when you look at like all the students that have joined in our year, I kind of already had an advantage point because everyone was like all focusing on, I need to find like where I'm living and stuff. I need to get to know the area and stuff. I already had that. So when obviously I came to uni, I can then instantly just got like, when I started socialising with people, I found that easier because I felt like more people were like sort of in that sense trying to really quickly socialise with people. So I feel like in that sense, I think like it worked quite well. And obviously, like, not to sound like mean or anything, but like some people would be like, can you like help me out? I don't really know the area. Can you like help me out with something? Or give me like, some people like asking, can you show me around the city and stuff? I'm like, yeah, sure. Because it was a nice way to socialise. I feel like that, in a sense, that kind of helped me do that. I was obviously going back to, obviously if I was to go to, let's say, London, I might have had that bit more of a struggle like I did in secondary school. Because obviously I'd have had the added attachment of the same thing again, going into somewhere, obviously not later to the party as such, but obviously still going to that somewhere that's obviously different to where you're used to.
Yeah, so you're struggling with the change and struggling with the unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. That's good. That's an interesting point of it. So you talk about your struggle socially. I just want to point out very, very quickly that you are one of the most confident people I've ever met.
Really?
Yeah, because you talk about how you struggle. We as your friends see it, but it's your amazing ability to just push forward through it.
100%.
You know, you don't let it affect you. How have you built that up?
I mean, people say I do, but I don't know how I do it. I can't.
Does it?
Yeah,
It's just
like
that guy.
people like say sometimes, you, like this. Like what was it? I'm trying to think who said it. Teo said to me the other week, you're always like looking out for me and stuff and that. But like, how the fuck are you doing all this by yourself? I'm like, am I? Since when? But you know, it's. I just kind of don't notice it in all sleep, but when people say it, I'm like, I don't know, just do it.
Just does it.
Yeah.
It's amazing because you talk about how you struggle with it, and I think you spoke to me a few times about sometimes you do struggle socially with it, and you sometimes feel like you're a bit out of place. You never seem like it never seems to get to you. That's just something. Is that come from you? Obviously, you're saying you haven't worked at it, but is that just you just plodding along and just trying your hand at whatever you can, or it's just talking to people? Because I've seen it work with when you've come in, and I'll see you sat there talking to someone, and then 2 weeks later you're in the pub drinking with them, watching football again.
Yeah,
because that's like
I love that.
Yeah, I guess that because when I came to the pub on Saturday, I'm guessing you have no idea who any of those people are.
I'm not being rude, but no, I'm working all the time.
Yeah,
I'm working.
so
in
obviously,
there, so
like
I see it, a few faces. I'm like, but I'm on Saturday. Like, how the fuck do you?
Well, it's like he came into my pub before that on Tuesday, and he was talking to the local drunk at the bar, having a great conversation about Chelsea. He was just like cracking on.
But yeah, I was, because it was, I remember when the rather shit Carabao Cup final happened a couple of months back. We were sort of, there was a Chelsea fan sat at our table, we were sitting, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And it's just like, well, here's my Snapchat if you want to go out to the pub. I was like, oh, cool. And then so we've been going to the pub about, I reckon about 8 or 9 times or something like that.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, we've been going for a while and stuff, and obviously it's another sort of group of friends outside of uni, obviously, that I've made, and I feel like it's been quite beneficial. It's also quite weird because they're all first years at uni, so this is their first year, so it kind of feels like now going along, it's like they'd be asking like, "Oh, how are you finding it?" Because obviously you're third year and stuff, and like it can be a bit of a struggle and stuff, but you sort of learn to deal with it as such. So I feel like it's kind of now, obviously, not only obviously will I have a lot of people outside in uni that I'll know going forward out when we finish, because obviously I'll be here for a second and a third year. Obviously, it's quite good because essentially it feels like I'm then. It's kind of good because
it feels like you're ushering them a little bit.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, obviously I haven't really had a younger sibling as such at all, because obviously that's what you've had to do with your younger siblings. This kind of feels like, that in a sense, I get to usher a group of younger people that are following, not exactly in my steps, but it's along the similar journey, which I feel like is quite nice in essence, if you get what I mean. It's quite a nice sort of thing to have.
Yeah. That's a nice way of looking at that, to be honest. So it's like you're fulfilling that brotherly role that some of them might not.
Wasn't there.
Yeah, that's cool.
It is beautiful.
That's a beautiful way. It's almost like a bookend to OJ's journey at university, isn't it? He started with the older brother, now he is the older brother.
Oh.
There you go.
I kind of feel like more, because also I've got a mate from work who, he's been working there for 2 years, and I essentially like kind of convinced him to join Bath Spa and to do film and TV because he enjoyed film and TV. And now obviously he's doing our course, and obviously he's like, "Oh, so for your second year, well, what do you choose?" I'm like, "Don't choose this, it's shit." So like it's kind of like nice sessions because like I get to help him avoid the things that I run into to make his uni experience better for him than, because obviously I've had a good uni experience, but obviously it could have been better. So that's what I'm trying to do for him now, make it as perfect as possible for him, so that he doesn't run into the same traps that I ran into. I'd say.
Love that.
That's a great way of looking at it, mate. It's a great way. So we spoke a lot about secondary, spoke a little bit about your struggles, we spoke about uni. What are you looking to do afterwards?
Make money and get laid. No, jokes. I mean, obviously I want to do that, but that's not the primary focus in life. Now, before anyone says that sounds like a bit... I'm not that type of person, fellas, don't worry. And ladies, if anyone who's watching. Or whatever gender you are, please don't cancel me. Jeez, this is now like what is like on the Beertastic podcast, because essentially what it's like. Actually, no, I don't want to say that. That makes it sound even worse than it is. No. This is part of the autism. This is fine. This is just my my intrusive thoughts being let out, guys. So don't worry. It's nothing.
It's your lack of filter, mate.
It's my lack of filter, mate.
I love it. I love it.
Oh
my God. Good job I'm not a bloody cigarette, isn't it? Otherwise people would just be like getting the tobacco just goes straight down their throat instead of it not being filtered.
That's a really good analogy. I like
that's
that.
really
Is that the word?
Analogy. I think I don't know. There is a word. Feel free to leave it in the comment section if you know. There is actually a comment section on Spotify if you add one. So
there is.
So, but yeah, I would say in terms of going forwards, obviously I'd like to take a little break as such. So obviously, I have a bit more time to myself and figure out what I'll do. And obviously, chill for a bit, obviously make a bit of money on the side before because obviously you need, I would say, in terms of getting to places, for example, for these kinds of jobs, you'd obviously need a bit of money going on the side in order to keep, going to these places or staying at places, for example. But, I feel like, obviously, first off, looking in the area, obviously, is a good idea, probably. Because, obviously, you have Bristol and Bath. Both, obviously, got quite a lot to do in film now, which is quite good. So maybe start looking at there so I can and then like branch out from there and see where it takes me, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
What about you guys? What would you say your...
I have no idea.
It's okay that we don't have any ideas,
I
mate, to be
know, I
honest.
know.
It is, but it's...
It's very daunting though.
Yeah.
At this stage, anyway.
Yeah. It is. But we'll figure it out in our own times, I think.
Game's game.
Game's the game.
No, we are still young.
We are still young. I know.
But yeah, it is daunting. Yeah. I think what will come will come.
Yeah.
Um,
I think anything else you want to plug besides the podcast?
obviously, Intian and FC, if you want to come and watch, we play on a Wednesday night. Anything else I want to plug? And there's nothing really else I can think of that
You want to chuck another thing in for the Beertastic if you want?
I can do. Obviously, if you want to listen, we already have a few episodes available to you. So if you're more interested in learning more about me, then obviously you can listen to that podcast, and we'll be lining up future episodes over the coming weeks. It should hopefully be bigger and better than what's come before.
Hell yeah.
We love that.
Links in the description as well.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
have the links in the
Check it out.
description,
Check
of
it
course. But yeah, I think that's what we'll call it a wrap then for the day,
Yeah.
gentlemen. Thank you for coming on, AJ.
No
Thank you
worries.
so much, AJ. I've
It's
learned
been
a lot about you.
It's been a pleasure.
Learned a lot.
about you.
Yeah, 100%. You've been very, very insightful for yourself as well as just like in general. You've been thoroughly entertaining. It's those intrusive thoughts winning again.
Exactly.
But yeah, honestly, you've been brilliant today. Thank you very much for coming
Thank you
on.
very much.
Thank you very much.
And that's it for this edition of Lads Lounge. I hope you all thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you've learned... You did not just...
He did. That's how we finish each
Damn
episode.
on haters.
Yeah. But I hope you've enjoyed listening to OJ. We thoroughly enjoyed having him on.
The orange juice.
The OJ, not the one that has recently died. Rest in peace. Yeah, or pieces.
Karma, bitch.
Pieces.
On the box. Let me redo this outro.
This might stay in.
No. But OJ, thank you very much for coming
Thank you
on,
very
mate.
much.
And
Cheers,
that
mate.
is it for this edition of Lads Lounge. We've thoroughly enjoyed it this week. Again, thanks to OJ. As always, thanks to the brilliant JJ. You are always there, bringing us together. Oh, that's it. Let's give us a little sugar, yeah. But engage with us in the comments on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Stay subscribed. Subscribe if you're not. Hopefully, we'll be talking to you again soon. Lots of love, peace.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.